Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Dr. Genius. So today we are going to discuss about 10th CBSE first biology chapter life process. So the video will be available in Malayalam also. The link will be provided in the description box. So let's see, what do you mean by a life process? So the definition of the life process is the processes which helps an organism to perform its functions during the entire lifespan. So that is called a life process. So before going to that, let's give a brief introduction about this chapter. In this chapter, we are going to discuss about the characters of living and non-living things, then types of nutrition, then different life processes like circulation, respiration and transportation. So now coming to the topic, what do you mean by life process? So overall processes, which means there are a lot of function is happening in our body. So that functions is called the overall process, which helps the organism to maintain its life or maintain its function. So that is called the life processes. So the life process include various processes. So that is, let's see what are the processes. So first one is called a movement. So what do you mean by movement? So move from one place to another, or we can say it as locomotion. So all the organism does not move. For example, all the animals can move. Then plants are also living beings, so they can't move from one place to another. So movement is regarded as the character of a living being, but still we can't say all the living organisms can move from one places to another. So second one is called respiration. So what do you mean by respiration? It's a process of inhalation and exhalation. What do you mean by inhalation? So in inhalation we are inspiring the air, and in exhalation we are expiring the carbon dioxide, which means the cycle of transfer of gases of oxygen and carbon dioxide with the help of respiratory organ called lungs. In animals we are having different type of respiratory organs, that is called lungs, book lungs and gills. So it depends on the hierarchy or the organization of animals. So we are having the organisms are divided into various kingdom, phylum, class and orders. Again, so for the higher animals, lungs are the respiratory organs. For lower animals, lungs, gill slits, book lungs, etc. are the respiratory organs. Okay, so what is the respiratory pigment? Hemoglobin is our respiratory pigment. With the help of a connective tissue called blood, this inhaling oxygen and the exhaling carbon dioxide will circulate around the blood, and it will reach us to the tissues and it will reach us to the cell, then it reaches to the particular organ that we need oxygen, and as a result of that respiration, what happens? The carbon dioxide is releasing. So this carbon dioxide will finally reach to the lungs, then expiring. Okay, so that is called a respiration. So the third life process is called a sensation. What do you mean by sensation? According to one stimulus. What do you mean by stimulus? Stimulus is the external force which can lead to the formation of an action potential. So the action potential will be caused by the neuron. Neuron is the basic part of our sensory system. So with the help of this action potential, it will reach us finally to the brain. Then brain will decide what to do by ourselves. Okay, so that is called a sensation. So we have completed the movement, respiration, sensation. Now next life process is called a growth. So what do you mean by growth? As a part of becoming age, what happens? All our cells will replace, all our cells will grow, and it will both shown by living organisms. All the living organisms called plants and animals and others also. So here in growth, what happens? The cell division will happen. What do you mean by cell division? One cell will divided into two, forming equal parent cells. So that is called a cell division. So cell division is the basic nature of all living organisms. So as a part of cell division, what happens? Growth will happen. So next is called a reproduction. What do you mean by reproduction? So the reproduction is the process by which the same individual is produced by the parents, which means a same species is producing their own offspring, which means their own baby. So that process is called a reproduction. Reproduction is of two types: sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. So what do you mean by asexual reproduction? In asexual reproduction, there is no involvement of any gametes. What do you mean by gamete? Gamete is the mini cell which is produced by the parent for sexual reproduction. So in sexual reproduction, there will be the formation of gamete. Male gamete is called a sperm, female gamete is called a ovum, which is produced from gonads. Togetherly we can say gonad. Gonad is the primary sex organs of animals. So that is called the reproduction. So the next is called the excretion. As a part of this various physiological metabolic processes, what happen? Waste products also producing. So the waste products also producing. So that waste product is removed by the process called the excretion. So the excretory organs of vertebrates or higher animals are called the kidney. So the kidney excrete unwanted waste products. So what will be the waste products of higher organisms? Nitrates, ammonia, nitrates, etc. So this will be removed by the kidney. So the nephron is the basic structure of or basic unit of the kidney, and the kidney will be removing all unwanted metabolites, and also it will reabsorb the wanted metabolites also. For example, some proteins, water molecules, blood cells is needed by our body, returned back. That we will discuss in the excretion process deeply. Okay, so next is called a nutrition. So what do you mean by nutrition? To carry out all the life process, we need to carry out all the life process, the process called a nutrition should be there. So next life process is called a nutrition. So above all, nutrition is the main life process, because without nutrition all other life process could not happen. Because in nutrition what we are going to study is what are the types, what are the things that we needed in the nutrition, because for the growth nutrition is almost responsible for that growth. Okay, so these are the different type of life process we are going to study in this chapter. So the first life process we are going to discuss is about nutrition. So what do you mean by nutrition? It is the process of intake of essential nutrients. So it is defined as the process of intake of essential nutrients. So what are the essential nutrients? The essential nutrients that we got from our food is carbohydrate, which means we can demonstrate it as CHO. Lipids, or we can say it as fat, water, vitamins, minerals, etc. So these are the nutrients. So these nutrients will do what? They will support or promote the growth of an individual or an animal or plants, whatever it may be, the living organism. So that is called the nutrition. Nutrition is the process of intake of essential nutrients. So that constituents are called the nutrients. So it can be carbohydrate, it can be lipid, it can be water, vitamins and minerals, etc. So how we are taking this nutrition? So that is called the mode of nutrition, which means the ways of taking nutrition or nutrients. So that is called the mode of nutrition. So mainly the mode of nutrition is divided into two. So first one is called autotrophic nutrition and second one is called the heterotrophic nutrition. So let's see what do we mean by autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. So let's see what is autotrophic. So here in autotrophic, the organism will prepare their own food materials, which means some organisms have the capacity to prepare their own food materials for the survival. So they can prepare their own content of vitamins, minerals, carbohydrate, protein, etc. So such organisms are called autotrophic. Such organism which keeps the mode of nutrition is called autotrophic nutrition. For example, plants. All the plants, all the green leaf organisms will accept the nutrition as autotrophic nutrition. So here they are using certain materials. With the help of that certain materials only what happening, the nutrition or the preparation is happening. Preparation of food material is happening. So here and sunlight. With the help of this carbon dioxide and sunlight, what they are doing, they are utilizing the energy and producing their own food materials along with a pigment called the chlorophyll. So the chlorophyll is the pigment which is present inside the green leaf. So this process is called photosynthesis. We will see what do you mean by photosynthesis and its importance in coming discussions. Okay, so this is called autotrophic nutrition. So next mode of nutrition is called heterotrophic nutrition. So what do you mean by heterotrophic nutrition? So here the organisms will depend other organisms for the nutrients or the nutrition. So such type of organisms are called such type of organism will receive the nutrition is called or heterotrophic nutrition. For example, all the organisms except the plants are called heterotrophic nutrition. Okay, so these are the two modes of nutrition, autotrophic and heterotrophic. Now let's see what do you mean by photosynthesis. This is happening, the nutrition in plants is happening by autotrophic mode of nutrition. So what do you mean by autotrophic mode of nutrition? So preparing their own food materials with the help of some carbon dioxide, sunlight and water. So that process is called a photosynthesis. So let's see, what do you mean by nutrition in plants? What do you mean by photosynthesis? So here the photosynthesis is defined as the conversion of simple inorganic material into complex organic food material, which means the process of conversion of simple inorganic. What is the difference between inorganic and organic material? So in inorganic material there will not be any carbon atom. So in organic material the presence of carbon atom will be there. For example, glucose, C6H12O6. Okay. So here what happens? The simple inorganic compounds will converted into complex organic food material. So what are the simple inorganic materials? So all the things that is utilized for the nutrition. So it is converted into complex organic food materials. For example, glucose, carbohydrate, lipids, etc. are the complex inorganic food material with the help of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the pigment, which is the green pigment which is utilized for the photosynthesis, and also with the help of sunlight and carbon dioxide. So sunlight and carbon dioxide is the external source which helps in the photosynthesis. So now you say, what do you mean by photosynthesis? With the help of chlorophyll, sunlight and carbon dioxide, what happens? Simple inorganic molecules or compounds will converted into complex organic components. So that is called the photosynthesis. So let's write the equation. So carbon dioxide and water is the simple inorganic components which is converted into complex organic substances, C6H12O6 and oxygen with the help of chlorophyll and sunlight. So this process is called the photosynthesis. Okay, so now let's see what are the events which occur in the photosynthesis. What are the events which occur in the photosynthesis? So first event or the first step that is happening in the photosynthesis, absorption of light energy. What is happening? Absorption of light energy. So where do we get the light? We got the light from the sunlight. So direct sunlight will appear. From the sunlight, what happens? The plants will absorb the light energy. So that is the first step in the events of photosynthesis. So the next step is called the absorbed light energy will be converted into chemical energy. So that what happened? We can utilize that chemical for the nutrition purposes. Okay, so second step is called the light energy conversion into chemical energy. So next, the third step is water is getting split into hydrogen and oxygen. Water is a complex molecule, so the complex molecule should be converted into simple molecule. Then only what happens? Then only the organism can absorb that simple molecule. So the complex molecule water is converted into simple hydrogen and a simple oxygen. Then finally what happens? The carbon dioxide is reduced to form carbohydrate. Carbon dioxide is reduced to form carbohydrate. So these are the four different types or four different events that are happening in the process of photosynthesis. So I already told you what do you mean by photosynthesis. With the simple inorganic components is converted into complex food materials. So this is happening with the help of chlorophyll. So the chlorophyll is the pigment which is present in the plant. So let's see where the chlorophyll is present and how the chlorophyll is produced. So have you heard about the organelle called chloroplast? So the chloroplast is the organelle which is present inside the plant cell. So you should have the difference between, you should know the difference between organelle and organ. Okay, so the organelle is the component which is present inside the cell. So that is called the organelle. So what do you mean by organ? A group of cells together to form tissue and tissue together to form an organ. So that is the difference between organelle and organ. So here chloroplast is a organelle which is present inside the cells of plant leaves. Okay, so what is the function of chloroplast? The chloroplast have the capacity to absorb the sunlight. Chlorophyll have the capacity to absorb the sunlight. Okay, so with the help of whom they are absorbing the sunlight? With the help of chlorophyll. So the chlorophyll will contain, chloroplast will contain the chlorophyll, and it have the capacity to absorb the sunlight for the photosynthesis. Now let's see where the sunlight is absorbing, or how the sunlight is absorbing. Okay, now let's take a leaf. Take a leaf and take a leaf. I have mentioned here. Take a cross section. Cross section means that's divided into two. Okay, so if we are dividing into two, so the outermost layer is called the cutile. Outermost layer is called a cutile. So what do you mean by cutile? It is the waxy portion of the leaf is called a cutile. Below that, what happens? Epidermis is present. It is cuboidal type of cells. So that is called a epidermis. And below the epidermis, there is a rectangular shaped cells is present. So that cells is called a chloroplast. So that is called a plant cell. Inside the plant cell, we can have a small dot-like or bean-shaped structure. So that is called a chloroplast. So this is called a plant cell. So in plant cell, what happened? It contains a small round-like or bean-shaped organelle called a chloroplast. So this is called a chloroplast. So these chloroplasts will help for the absorption of sunlight, and it will lead to the formation of photosynthesis and food material. So this is all about the structure called a chloroplast. Let's see what do you mean by heterotrophic nutrition. I already told you what do you mean by heterotrophic nutrition. The nutrition in which one organism depend on other organism for the food material. So such type of nutrition is called a heterotrophic nutrition. So mainly we can categorize the heterotrophic nutrition into three. First one is called a saprophytic nutrition, next is called a parasitic nutrition, and next is called a holozoic nutrition. Okay, so let's see what is in parasitic, saprophytic and holozoic nutrition. First is called a saprophytic nutrition. So here the organism will depend on dead and decayed matters for the production of food material. Okay, once again I am saying the organism will depend upon dead and decayed organism for the food materials. So they obtain food from dead and decaying organisms. So examples are called bacteria and fungus. Okay, every organism having a particular lifespan. Okay, so after the particular lifespan, what happens? The organism will dead. So after the death, what happens? This bacteria or this fungus will eat the entire body or entire organism. So they obtain from dead and decaying organism. Such type of organisms are called such type of nutritions are called saprophytic nutrition. Next is called parasitic nutrition. So here in parasitic nutrition, the one organism will depend on other organism, but still that other organism will not die, but there may cause some negative effect on the host organism. Such type of nutritions are called parasitic nutrition, which means the two organisms will be there. One is benefited and other is get negative result. Such type of nutrition is called parasitic nutrition. For example, mosquito and humans. So here mosquito will drink the blood of humans or other animals. So here who is benefited? The mosquito is benefited. The mosquito is getting food from the human as a form of blood. So here who got the negative effect? The humans got the negative effect, because mosquito can act as a vector which can cause or which can spread some different type of diseases. So if any type of diseases will caused by the mosquito, then the negative effect will be go to the human. So such type of nutrition is called a parasitic nutrition. So finally, the third heterotrophic nutrition is called a holozoic nutrition. So what do you mean by holozoic nutrition? So here the organism will engulf the food materials. The organism will engulf the food materials. So this process is called engulf. Okay. So here the organism will engulf the food materials. Then what happens? Digestion will start. Okay. Example is called amoeba. Amoeba is the organism which is doing this holozoic type of nutrition. So here what happens? This is an amoeba. Amoeba will form a pseudopodia. So this is called a pseudopodia. What do you mean by pseudopodia? A false apparatus. False limbs are called a pseudopodia. So when the food materials will come nearby the amoeba, what happens? This amoeba will form pseudopodia, and then this food material will go to the depression that forms by the pseudopodia. Okay, so the holozoic nutrition can have different type of steps. That is called a ingestion. What do you mean by ingestion? That attraction of food materials into the body is called a ingestion. Okay, so next step is called a digestion. What do you mean by digestion? We are converting the complex molecules into simple molecules, so that is called a digestion. Third one is called absorption. Here in absorption, what happened? The digested simple organic food materials will be absorbed into the bloodstream. So next is called assimilation. Assimilation means this utilization of every nutrients is called assimilation. Next is called egestion. What do you mean by egestion? Egestion is typically the excretion only. Okay, the egestion in here, what happens? The removal of waste material happen in the egestion. So this is called different methods or the different stages in the holozoic nutrition. For remembering this, I have a keyword that is called India base. That is called India base. I am ingestion, D is digestion, A be absorption, A is assimilation, and E is called egestion. Now let's see what are the, in next episode we can see what are the or the method of digestion in human beings. So let's see in the next video. Stay tuned.